Good morning, good Sunday morning, everybody. Hope everybody's drying off. If not, you will in here. It's my great pleasure to introduce our musical guest today, Mr. Harold Payne.
I'll try to be thematic for the Martin Luther King kickoff here. Oh, I am standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. I am following the footsteps of those who led the way. Got to say it again. I am standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. Those who led the way. Jesus and Gandhi and Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa, they all had a dream. We're living and learning from the love they left behind. The candle is still burning now, and we can help it shine. I am standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. I am following the footsteps of those who led the way. Every time I stumble, every time I fall, I think of all their sacrifice. The problem seems so small. Well, the road has been well paved. My dues they all have paid. I hear their voices calling me to reach a higher plane. I am following the footsteps of those who led the way. Even when I see it backwards. And standing on the shoulders, those who led the way. And you have made us strong. And we will carry on. I'm standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. I'm following the footsteps of those who led the way. I am standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. Yes, I am. Oh, oh. And I am following the footsteps of those who led the way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. In honor of the same thing, I did a peace walk in India starting at Gandhi Ashram. It's appropriate to play this song. I am a humble man from a village in India. I walk in the footsteps of those who've gone before. In this road I travel on will lift me up and make me strong. So when people ask me what this journey's for, I say, if I take one step in the right direction, if I touch one heart along the way, if that one step comes to chain reaction, my journey has not been in vain. I know no countries, I know no governments, I just know the people I've had the joy to meet. And the only flag I know is this peace banner that I show when you see me walking down the street. If I take one step in the right direction, if I touch one heart along the way, if that one step becomes a chain reaction, then my journey has not been in vain. I get my inspiration from the words of the children, trying to teach myself what they already know. If I could show my fellow man what a child can understand, then the seeds that I have sown will surely grow. If I take one step in the right direction, if I touch one heart along the way, and if that one step becomes a chain reaction, then my journey has not been in vain. Got to say it again. If I take one step in the right direction, oh, oh, if I touch one heart along the way, if that one step becomes a chain reaction, then my journey has not been in vain.
Please welcome to the Beamer, Reverend Dr. Keith Cox.
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy to have with us this morning Harold Payne. It's always a pleasure. Are you winding your way out? You're taking one step right there, in one step. And of course, Andy Belling, our co-music director. Good morning, everyone. How are we all today? Am I the only one loving this rainy weather? I love it. I'm not being facetious, and very appreciative that I'm not in the polar vortex. So it was great. Quite wet earlier in this morning. So as much as I was loving it, Sadie was not. I can tell you that. She's my four-legged spiritual offspring, for those of you that are new here. So if you're new here today, welcome. I know we have a lot of new faces. We're happy to have you here with us at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. You'll hear the audio is going to be playing around a bit today because we have our new sound technician in the back, Travis Smith. Travis, we're so happy to have you here, working with Jesus Ernesto Reyes. And so Travis is going to be working and playing around with the audio, not only just in the room, but also for those that are watching us on live stream. Let's say hello to those that are watching us on live stream. And we're trusting those that are catching us on Facebook Live here with the camera with Sarah Nuri. Hello to Sarah Nuri. And thank you for being on camera there. A hello to all of you. And we're covering the globe this morning, one step at a time. So welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. It is my honor and my privilege and my pleasure to share this time together with you this Sunday morning. We come together every Sunday morning to be in community. What that means is to commune together, acknowledging the power and the presence of the only thing that exists in our philosophy and faith and way of life, known as the science of mind, and that is the power of God. We have zero attachment to you using that word to define the power, but we're very clear that it is the only power that exists in the universe, and that we know that the more and more that you call it, the more and more you have the opportunity and the ability to experience more of that. Very excited that this morning we kick off the season for nonviolence. It's the first time we've done this here at the Center for Spiritual Living. You'll hear more about that in my message this morning. It's a 64-day window of an opportunity for each and every individual that participates in it with the multiple communities that are doing it around the world to become more conscious on how you not only activate peace in your life, but how you choose to engage in all activities of life, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, as well as react to that. So we come together every Sunday morning, as I said, to be in community with each other, both live and through our live stream and through Facebook Live, to remember who we are as spiritual beings. That we are not just humans walking this planet, but we're imbued with a power, as I said earlier, that we call God, that not only gives us life, but gives us the opportunity to express life. And so it's our honor to share this time with you together. And let's take a moment and honor our beloved founder, Dr. David Walker, as he used to say each and every Sunday morning, "We welcome one and we welcome all." So we have a great service planned for you this morning, some wonderful music that Andy and Harold has put together that will be reflecting our theme of the season for nonviolence. We are going to begin our Sunday morning, as we always do, with a ritual. That ritual is facilitated by a practitioner. It's called Calling in the Light, and it's an opportunity to not only hear some beautiful music, but to be led down this pathway in your soul of knowing who you are as a spiritual being, to hear a quality of the divine in a new way, and using that as an acronym, as well as to do a call and response sing-along. And then in the end, you'll hear what's called affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. If that's something that's new to you, I invite you to open your mind to that. And it's a declarative process of communing with that power that I spoke of earlier. So I invite our practitioner of the day, Jody Carter, to the podium on the bema here to guide us through. And I am your illuminator. So welcome, Jody.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love.
Good morning. Today we're performing a ritual called Calling in the Light. And we perform this ceremony to to speak well, to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings, from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning this conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities we possess as complete expressions of the divine. As we feel the vibrations, as we feel the vibrations shift during the experience, may we become ever more aware of the light of life that exists in and as all life, including you, each one of you, and me. Today we will use each of the letters of the word light. While somebody answers their phone, we will experience each of the letters of the word light, and we have the possibility of each of us to embrace our light in a more expansive way today. So with the L, as Keith lights the first candle, the letter L stands for life. In the book Science of Mind, life is defined as the animating principle of all being, the inner something that makes everything live. I, second candle, stands for individuality. Dr. Ernest Holmes states, "Spirit has placed the stamp of individuality and called it you." During our time together today, may we each embrace our uniqueness in a greater way and share it with the world with ease and with grace. G stands for grace. In metaphysics, grace is defined as the givingness of spirit to its creation. It is not a special law, but a specialized one, meaning the only way we experience it is through the recognition in it, and we do that now. Grace. H, as Keith lights the fourth candle, for the letter H, it represents heaven. In this sense, heaven is not a physical destination, but a state of happiness. Heaven is within, and it revolves all about us. It is a result of that atmosphere, the vibrational frequency of conviction, which our thought awakens within us. So T for thought. T for transformation. Spiritual transformation is a fundamental change in a person's sacred or spiritual life. In psychology, spiritual transformation is understood within its context of an individual's meaning system, especially in relation to concepts of the sacred or ultimate concern. May we each experience transformation as we consciously experience and express our light in a more empowered way. And as Keith lights the sixth and final candle, that which is known as the healing candle, we ask you each to take a moment and think of anyone that you would like to silently put into the light of the healing flame to experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
I am love, I am love, I am peace, I am peace. In my heart, in my heart, I am free, I am spirit, I am soul, all together, we are whole, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
And we do all know together that indeed we are one. We are one with our light, with the wholeness of God, of infinite love, of the light of the universe that surrounds us, of the wholeness that keeps us a little above that experience that earlier I called the movie of our life. That movie that we design it and we live it, but we can't just change it on the human level, like you can't at the movie theater change the plot on the screen. It's just lights on a screen. And we see that in our own life. These lights on the screen of our life can be transformed by our awareness of this oneness, of the light that we are, that propels us into our week of appreciation, of nonviolence, of learning to live our life with knowing that we are truth and love and wholeness, that the rest cannot disturb us because it's just the movie of our life. So we go on to appreciate our wholeness, our oneness, and knowing that the infinite power of the universe stands beside us, within us, around us, with every person in our life, with every situation in our life. It is us, the wholeness, the love, and the light of God. We do know that to be true as we say together, and so it is.
Thank you, Jody. Wonderful. Finding the light within in a new way. Beautiful. Thank you. So there's a being of light that's about to express his light to us in a whole new way. And I requested this song that we're going to have Harold sing for us this morning. I'm sure that you're all familiar with it, and I'm going to reference it not only in my message, but I think it's a great song to kick off the season for nonviolence. I was joking in the back earlier. I think the term kick-off and nonviolence isn't really this. Shouldn't go in. But to begin, unless it's a dance move, right? A kick-off. All right, so to the Bema, Harold Payne, please hear this song anew. You're familiar with it. It's Imagine. Not only recall whatever wonderful memories that you have with this particular song, but open yourself up to hearing it in a new way, that it's an instruction for a new way to live your life. Harold Payne and Andy Belling.
Put my seatbelt on here. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all hope someday you will join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. The brotherhood and sisterhood of woman and man. Imagine all the people living like today. You may say I'm a dream, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will live as one.
Andy Belling and Harold Payne. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Quite beautiful. And so, we're good, babe. And so imagine the world living as one, consciously. That's the key. That is the key. So Harold and I were speaking earlier about all of us as with the musicians in the group as to who would show up today on Sunday, it being the Super Bowl. And I told him that the people that came today, or our crew, wouldn't stay home for the Super Bowl. And he said, well, the goal was to make sure that we did not create a stupor bowl here. So, so our goal is not to put you in a stupor, and today I'm going to do some reading, and so please do not become stupored. Stay awake as you hear some of this as we kick off this theme. You'll notice in your chair there is a bookmark that talks a little bit about the season for nonviolence, and for the first 7 days, which is the week we're in right now, self-forgiveness is the theme. Reverend Lenore has so graciously decided to create these for all of us and to give them to us weekly. So I want you to have that. And a big thank you to Reverend Lenore. She's been pushing me to do this, and as I said last week, maybe I said in class, we've been trying to figure out what's the way to engage in conscious activity separate from what we normally do to work with what's going on in the world today, both from a political perspective and just the effects of the world. And nothing felt right to me to just sit down and have us talk, just talk and talk and talk, which we do that in class, not talk and talk and talk, but discuss this theory, this practice, this way of life is the science of mind. But this particular campaign seems right to me, that if we can come together consciously for the next 64 days and with purpose and intent act upon not only the principles of nonviolence, but certainly move into living with compassionate action, that indeed can not only shift our own state of mind, but that of the world, so that we may live as one in a greater way than ever before. Season for nonviolence. What is it? Well, as a human family, we're asking the question, how can any act of violence be recognized as a solution to the consequences of violence that we face today? Violent actions and reactions are the scars of social, educational, and economic wounds. The voices of a spiritually inarticulate culture. The practice of nonviolence is initiated by choice and cultivated through agreement. The time has come to agree upon this as a global community, as if our lives and those of our children's children depended on it. Our vision is of a better world for all human beings, just as was sung in that song. The Gandhi King Season for Nonviolence, meaning Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King, Season for Nonviolence, is an international grassroots campaign growing out of the passion and creative expression of many spiritual and civic-minded individuals and communities. Our vision is to promote a proactive, life-enhancing awareness of nonviolent activism as demonstrated by Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, and the Dalai Lama. The Season for Nonviolence is celebrated each year between January 30th and April 4th, marking the memorial anniversaries of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is energized by the spiritually motivated citizen leaders and volunteers in over 900 cities in 67 countries since its inception. Co-founded in 1998 by the Association for Global New Thought and Arun and Sunanda Gandhi, the campaign is convened and directed by the Association for Global New Thought. Our purpose is to create an awareness of nonviolent principles and practice as a powerful way to heal, transform, and empower our lives and communities. Through an educational and community action campaign, we honor those who use nonviolence to build a community that honors the dignity and worth of every human being. By identifying what works in these new models for reconciliation and human harmony, we're demonstrating that every person can move the world in the direction of peace through his or her non-violent choice and action. To create a world this way. Think about that for a second. Certainly John Lennon wrote about it in that particular song. I'm sure at one point in each one of our lives we've thought for a moment, what would the world be like if violence or hatred or war didn't exist? But not only if it just didn't exist, but that peace existed. Is it a possibility? Certainly as conscious practicing metaphysicians, it is incumbent upon us to believe that it is indeed possible. And why is that? Because we understand that we play a role in the co-creative process in our life, not just of our own physical individual life, but the life of all of humanity, because we live in a world of oneness that is infinite by nature, that power that exists within us, that we call God, that is omniscient, that is omnipresent, and it's governed by spiritual law. And as peace is one of the qualities of that power, such as beauty and power and light and life and love and wisdom is, that as we focus on that, this impersonal law of creation must bring forth an experience that is relative to it. That's the very basic foundation of this teaching of the science of mind and related teachings. So it's important for us to understand that it not only is indeed possible, but for that to manifest itself, it is up to us individually and collectively. The vision statement for the Centers for Spiritual Living is creating a world that works for everyone. Now, I personally have had a really hard time with that vision because I think it's a bit arrogant and I think that it's an impossibility. And yet that shows the arrogance on my own part by thinking that it's not possible. And I can take a step back and look at that and ask myself, is there violence within me, not wanting to kill somebody per se, but is there an energy that comes up within me regarding that vision statement that isn't one that's peaceful? And on some level, the answer is yes to that. So what that's showing me is that within me, there's something for me to heal in the process of activating my consciousness to a belief that there is the possibility that the world can indeed work for everyone, and that I have the tools to do that. And I know that I do because in my own personal world, I've created a world for myself where violence is significantly less prevalent than it was before, and I know that's the same for each and every one of you. And so this campaign that we kick off today is one where we get to have an opportunity to be self-reflective, to take a self-inventory, if you will, to ask ourselves, what is it that I desire to have, not only as the world that I navigate on a daily basis, but the world that I navigate within on a daily basis. Nonviolence is what we're speaking of here. It's the personal practice of being harmless to self and others under every single condition. Every condition. That includes being in traffic. It does. It comes from the belief that hurting people, animals, or the environment is unnecessary to achieve an outcome, and refers to a general philosophy of abstention from violence. This may be based on moral, religious, or spiritual principles, or it may be for purely strategic or pragmatic reasons. Non-violence has active or activist elements, in that believers generally accept the need for nonviolence as a means to achieve political and social change. Thus, for example, the Tolstoy and Gandhian nonviolence is a philosophy and strategy for social change that rejects the use of violence, but at the same time sees nonviolent action, also called civil resistance, as an alternative to passive acceptance of oppression or armed struggle. The term nonviolence is often linked with or used as a synonym for peace. And despite being frequently equated with passivity and pacifism, this is rejected by nonviolent advocates and activists. Nonviolence refers specifically to the absence of violence and always the choice to do no harm. So I invite you today to take this in and ask yourself, as you're beginning to look anew at your own behavior, not only externally, but your own mental behavior, especially since we know and believe in this philosophy and teaching that every single thing begins and ends in mind. Where is there violence in your life? Dr. Martin Luther King tells us in The Quest for Peace and Justice that nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon. Indeed, it is a weapon unique in history which cuts without wounding and ennobles the man who wields it. The key here today is that we begin the process of stop the wounding. To take in this concept in a way to remember that we do indeed make an impact with all of our actions, our reactions, our thoughts, our beliefs, and our interactions in the world today. I was thinking of the way to kick this off, and I remember that there is this great quote that says that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And so today I ask you to step into your mind and ask yourself, what is it that you stand for? Another way of phrasing that quote is, when you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. So I ask you today, what do you stand for? What do you stand for in your life? And are you willing to not only stand for that, but to stand up for it? Mahatma Gandhi told us that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So today, I invite you to adopt a new way of life through new thoughts, new beliefs, new actions, and how you engage in injustices in the world. To see where you play a role in not only being cause to an injustice in the world, but how you react to injustices that take place. Injustice is defined as a lack of fairness or justice. I know that just in my own personal life and preparing for this season, I've become more acutely aware of my judgment around things that take place in life when injustices take place. Some of the synonyms for injustice is unfairness. Injustice is unfairness, inequity, corruption, cruelty, brutality, tyranny, despotism, repression, suppression, exploitation, bias, prejudice, bigotry, favoritism, partiality, one-sidedness, discrimination, partisanship, intolerance, inequity, and outrage. I don't know about you, but as I hear some of those words, I know without a shadow of a doubt they're taking place on our planet. I know without a shadow of a doubt they're taking place in our country. I know without a shadow of a doubt they're taking place in Los Angeles. I know without a shadow of a doubt they're taking place on La Brea Avenue. The question is, where in our lives do we see these injustices? Where in our life are we cause to these injustices? Where in our lives are we contributing to those to that in others and or into our for ourselves? And what are we going to do about it? The question is, if we stand for something in regards to this, are we ready to act on it? In our teaching, we are taught oftentimes, and we talked about this in class last week, that we're called to be into spiritual practice. And this week we talked about that the practice part can only play out if we use the three letters in the middle of that word, A-C-T, meaning that to engage in spiritual practice, we have to act. And if we stand for something so that we're not falling for everything, we must stand up and act. Well, what's the first step in acting? Well, I think it's to remember that our role in life, first and foremost, is to do unto others as we would have them do unto you. That's a command that's based on words of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, that he also says, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. The Mosaic Law contains a parallel commandment that says, whatever is hurtful to you, do not hurt any other purpose. And so I invite you to look in your own mind today and ask yourself, where in my life have I done something this morning, yesterday, last week, the week before? I may even remember where I did something to someone that I wouldn't want done to me. And in that moment, we all know we've done something, right? We've all done something. None of us are saints as much as we like to think so. We're not. But it's not about judging ourselves. In our teaching, it's all about becoming aware of our actions and our reactions and our interactions with life. It's about becoming aware of whether or not those particular actions are repetitious, or if they're with intent, or if they're done with malice. And to take a step away from it, whether that's the case enough, and ask ourselves, am I willing to start anew? To start anew. And so today, we get to start anew through the act of self-forgiveness, as the bookmark says. Self-forgiveness is knowing that who you are is greater than what you've done or not done, have or don't have. Today, forgive yourself for forgetting who you are. And so today I invite you to not forget who you are, but to remember who you are as a spiritual being. A spiritual being having a human experience. And yet that's very confusing at times, because we feel like we're having a human experience all the time, not remembering who we are as a spiritual being. And today, as we kick off into these 64 days, you may think that you are too small or too insignificant to make a difference on our planet. But I love the quote by the Dalai Lama that addresses that if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And to ask yourself today, what do you prefer, to be the mosquito or the sleeper? It doesn't matter. That landed really well. All right, so what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, is spiritual discernment. Spiritual discernment is the first step after self-forgiveness. Ernest Holmes writes that through spiritual discernment, we see that we have within us a power, and we can overcome every obstacle in our experience and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new way. We get to begin with this spiritual discernment of knowing who we are as spiritual beings, and that whether we want to believe it or not in this philosophy, faith, and way of life, we know that we are one. That we're interconnected by this power that is greater than we are, and yet it is imbued within us, giving us life. And that's true for each and every expression of life, that they are imbued with the same equal amount of divinity. And so today, as we kick off this season for Nonviolence, I invite you to imagine in a new way, once you've processed your action of self-forgiveness, to imagine this world living in peace, to imagine it living in harmony, to imagine the world around you as you navigate it, that what's in front of you is not a world of injustices. It's not a world of where there has been separateness. There's not a world where there's poverty. There's not a world where there is sickness, and there's not a world where there is inequity. Because Albert Einstein tells us that imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is the language of the soul. So pay attention to your imagination and you will discover all you need to be fulfilled. All that you will need to be fulfilled. What he's telling us there is through imagining that which we desire, fulfillment will come. Because we're then choosing to act upon that which is deep within us, that oneness, that reservoir of source, that reservoir that exists within our soul. And in so doing, the law of life will bring forth through us an experience that is reflective of it. And so today, let's step into the first principle of nonviolence, which is this. Nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. It is active, nonviolent resistance to evil. It's aggressive spirituality mentally and emotionally. So I invite you today, are you willing to be nonviolent in a new way? Are you willing to step into this aggressive spirituality mentally and emotionally? It seems a bit contradictory to be talking about non-violence and being called to aggressive spirituality, right? And yet what I think it's speaking to here is a conscious awareness of our ability to use our oneness and to impact the world that we live in, understanding that as we give, a ripple effect begins to take place around us. And so the first way that I'd like for us to do that through the next week is by stepping into random acts of kindness. Not a new concept for anyone in the room, I'm sure, correct? Anyone new hearing that, random acts of kindness? Well, how do we change the world, Morgan Freeman writes? We do it through one random act of kindness at a time. And so what I invite you to do today is to commit to yourself to be kind so that you have an impact on your psychological and physical health. Mother Teresa told us that we cannot do great things on this earth, only small things with great love. Small acts of kindness resonates in all of our lives. For example, letting someone cut in front of you in a traffic jam. Anyone ever guilty of not doing that? Stopping to talk with an elderly neighbor even though you're in a rush. Lending a helping hand to, my elderly neighbor just laughed. Lending a helping hand to a coworker who's behind on their project, even though this means that you'll have to stay late at work. You get to decide what one of these acts would be, but kindness means a behavioral response of compassion and actions that are selfless, or a mindset that places compassion for others before one's own interest. In performing these acts, these selfless acts, a person may undercut their own selfish interest, knowing that kindness, so what we're here to know is that kindness is also a value that is disregarded. Well, why is kindness so undervalued? In part, it's because kind people may be viewed as enablers by some, or worse, as suckers by the cynical. Thus, the cynic's view that one is a sucker if one behaves in a kind manner towards others reflects a belief system that success is only achieved through stepping on or ignoring others. Yet the cynic's behavior rarely results in true happiness. That sense of feeling love, that one's true destiny and purpose are fulfilled, and that what one is doing matters in the most profound sense. So today, I encourage you and invite you to step into acting kind, not only randomly, but purposely for others. Treat others in the way that you would like to be treated if someone was engaging in a random act of kindness for you. Find out that today may be the day that you want to buy groceries for someone, or pay for coffee, or just simply walk up and give a smile. Or listen to a story that you think you don't want to hear. Or sit with someone that wants to watch the Super Bowl that you think that would drive you nuts. Right? And then let today be the day that that part of your soul awakens to a new way when you're engaging in supporting individuals finding their personal happiness in life, that then brings you finding your personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, and feel the shift that takes place in life. As you choose then this evening to be kind randomly to someone, and then tomorrow, throughout the day, and the next day, and the next day, and do it not only just because I'm inviting you and encouraging you to do it, but use it as a spiritual experiment. To see that if the outpicturing of what takes place in life, the manifestation of the experiences that you have will reflect this conscious act of giving. I can assure you that it will. because the nature of life is to reflect that which it is, and its nature is peace. But we only get to experience that peace if we're willing to give it, if we're willing to step into it, if we're willing to act as if it already exists within the world, and then do so with a great sense of faith that it must be returned to us multiplied abundantly. Today, you might walk out of here choosing to not do any of this on your own. That's up to you. But I know that for myself, I've decided that for the next 64 days in front of me, I'm going to become consciously awake to living from the love that exists within me. If for no other reason, to simply honor the actions of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King. This month is Black History Month, and we have the opportunity to honor amazing people of color that did amazing work, and they're countless. But how wonderful we have Dr. Martin Luther King, that we know stood for something. That was a gentleman who clearly stood for something. And the world is a better place for it. And so what's in front of you from this moment forward may not necessarily be crossing bridges. It may not be sitting in somewhere demanding something. It may be. It may not necessarily be walking on the streets with a poster board on a stick telling the world what you believe in. It may be. But it may just simply be being more kind in a way in a world that we know that there are injustices. It may be honoring the oneness within a sentient being that you encounter that visually appears to be completely different from you in all the external circumstances, by their clothes, by their hygiene, by what appears to be how much money they have, by their mental state. Any or all of that is just simply a condition. It's an outer expression. It's not the divinity that exists within you and within me. The energy that exists within you, within me, and all of those individuals knows not how it's clothed. It just knows to be. And so it begins to manifest itself and vibrate at a higher frequency when it's acknowledged. And so today I encourage you to acknowledge that in others as you leave this beloved space we call home as the Center for Spiritual Los Angeles, and choose with purpose and with intent and consciously to not only just imagine the world as a better place, but be a conscious act of it being better, because you're using your mind and your soul and your heart and your being. Thank you. Thank you. And welcome back, Harold Payne and Andy Belling.
We were asked to stand for something, and for me it's civility. And with all my ability, I won't be incognito. I won't be the sleeper, I'll be the mosquito. And in traffic, even there I'll practice peace. If someone cuts me off, I'll just release and hold up 2 fingers instead of just one. And for me the same will be done. Couldn't help it. In the midst of chaos, I see a ray of hope, a coming together of unprecedented scope, a return to oneness and compassion, with simple kindness is the first reaction. Where our rancor is released, this is a call to peace. There have been times when we've been tested, felt isolated and disconnected. We are stronger than our fears, and the future's brighter than it appeared. We can build on our common beliefs. This is a call to peace. It's a call to peace. It's a call to love. It's a call to the greatness we're all made of. It's a call to peace. It's a call to love. You're my brother and my sister, and we all know there's a bond between us that we can't let go. I'll hear your truth, and you hear mine, and we'll respect each other until we find that all bitterness simply cease. This is a call to peace. It's a call to peace. Oh, it's a call to love. It's a call to the greatness we're all made of. It's a call to peace. It's a call to love. It's a call to peace. Oh, it's a call to love. It's a call to the greatness we're all made of. It's a call to peace. Oh, it's a call to love. It's a call to the greatness we're all made of. It's a call to peace. It's a call to love.
Harold Payne.